Hi everyone, my name is Miss Amber and I am going to walk you through how to paint your sea turtle today. So everybody got 2 paintbrushes, a thing of paint, and then an outlined canvas in your art kit. You will need a few additional supplies such as a napkin to clean your brushes, a plate of some sort to put your paint on as you're using them, and then a cup for water. I use an old yogurt cup, but you can use just a regular throwaway plastic cup or whatever you have around the house. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to paint our background, which is all this teal around your turtle. So to start off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my teal from my paint container and mix it with just a touch of black. I'm going to make a darker shade for the bottom portion, and then I'm going to slowly make a gradient look as I go up, meaning the color gets a little bit lighter. So to make a darker shade, you're going to add just a touch of black, just the tip of your paintbrush, into some of your teal paint. You don't want to add too much because otherwise it'll look really dark and muddy. And then you also want to add a little bit of water. So I just dipped my paintbrush into the water twice, and then I added that to my paint on the plate. So you can see that's a little bit darker than what teal I gave you that's straight in your container. So I have dark teal, regular teal, and then I'm also going to make sure I have some white accessible. Even though your paint is all in a container, I would still recommend scooping some out and putting it on your paint plate. That way you don't accidentally dip your brush in this clean white and get it all dirty because you'll want to use white later on. So go ahead, once you have your colors ready and you've added a little bit of water to each one, you can go ahead and paint your background. One thing you want to keep in mind as you're painting your teal in the background, and you want to make sure it's a nice gradient, is not to wash your brush in between your dark teal and your light teal, and then you want to make sure that your paint is wet before you put the new color on. So I have my dark teal applied at the bottom, and now I'm just going to brush that regular teal right over top of the edge of the dark teal, and that's going to help the two colors blend together nicely. Another thing to think about as you're painting, if you feel comfortable painting in or drawing those seaweed leaves along the bottom, you can paint right over them instead of painting around them, which is what I did. But if you don't feel comfortable drawing them later on your own, you can just paint around them as well. It'll take a little bit more time, but that's okay. So you can see there how it's a nice gradient. It goes from the dark teal to the light teal, and that's because I made sure that the paint was still wet. That dark teal was still wet when I applied just the regular teal over top. All right, so go ahead and paint the teal. You're going to paint teal all the way up to the top, and once you get to the top, you want to again make sure your teal is wet, and we're going to paint white over top of that as well, just to get a lighter shade of teal at the top. All right, artists, now that you have the teal of your background done, and we did dark teal to regular teal to a lighter teal, we are going to paint the green of our turtle. So you can see there are regular, normal dark greens and then some lighter greens as well. These are for his arms, legs, and his head. So what I did was, using the green color from your paint palette here, you're going to scoop 2 piles of green onto your paint plate. Your first green is just going to be regular green, you can see here, and I just added a touch of water to it. And then you're going to make a lighter green. So to make light green, we're going to use green and white, and we're going to use both of those for the legs, arms, and the head. You want to make sure that the teal of your background is dry before you start painting, so that way as you're painting you don't get your arm in the paint and get it all over yourself or smear it on part of the turtle. So you might have had a few accidents like I did where I got the teal inside the turtle lines. That is totally okay because now we can go ahead and clean that up with the green. But as you're painting the green, you want to make sure that you're careful with that color, because if you paint outside the turtle lines and get it in your watercolor, you have to go back and touch it up. So we just want to be careful with this color if we can to stay within our lines and clean up any mishaps that we had with our teal color. And then just choose a leg or an arm to start with. It doesn't matter which one, they're all going to be about the same process. So I'm going to start by painting just my regular green color. And it's important with this process that you make sure your two colors again are wet. This is going to help blend the two colors together instead of making it look like it's one color and then another color next to it. We don't want to have any harsh lines. So I painted about half to 2/3 of the fin just regular green. And you can see that you're going to have some canvas white showing through. That's okay, we can go back and we can add another coat, or if you like that look, you can just leave it as is. So once you have the regular green on there, I'm going to, without washing my brush, just grab some of the lighter green. And then I'm going to paint right next to that regular green and blend the two colors together. And again, we're trying to stay in the lines as best as we can, not to make a mess with our green colors so we don't have so much to touch up. And we also want to make sure that we're not getting green, if we can, on our shell, because that shell is going to be a lighter color, which means it's going to be harder to cover up that green if we have to. So you can see there the dark green and then the light green, and the two colors were wet, so they blended together. Again, if you don't like part of the canvas showing through, you can do 2 coats. But you can see on mine, you can see some of that shining through, so it makes it look like a little bit lighter, kind of like there's a lighter glow on the turtle. Totally up to you and what your preference is. So go ahead and paint the green for all of the legs and then the head as well. With the head, make sure that you don't paint where the black eyes are, but everything else you can paint. All right, now that we have the green of our turtle done, just like this, we're going to move on to painting the turtle shell. So you can see that my turtle shell is more yellow in the center and then it goes outwards and becomes orange. You notice though that you do not have orange in your paint palette, and so what we're going to do is we're going to make the color orange. You're going to scoop out 2 piles of yellow onto your plate, and then you're going to take just a touch of red, just the tip of your brush you're going to dip in your red, and you're going to mix that with 1 pile of your yellow, and that's going to make an orange color. Now you want to start off with just a little bit of red because it's a little bit more overpowering than the yellow, so if you add too much red, it's just going to appear red. So if you want this to be darker, you can always add a touch more red, but again, just start with a little bit and you can add more. It's harder to make it lighter if you get too dark. Again, just a little bit of water with our paint as well. That's just going to help it spread and have a nice even consistency. And then with the turtle shell, what you can do is, because our yellow and our orange is a light color, you can paint red over top of your turtle shell lines because you still should be able to see those pencil lines underneath those colors. Now if you paint too heavy of a coat of paint, you will not be able to see your paint lines. But if you do a nice thin coat, like I'm recommending, then you'll see those pencil lines underneath and then you can outline them in black later on, versus trying to paint each different frame of the shell. Now if you want to do something fun and different for your turtle, you can paint each one a different color. You could do red, yellow, and orange, or you can throw in some of your other colors too, like the teal or the green. Totally up to you. I'm going to do the yellow and orange and show you how to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my yellow, so I'm going to work from the inside out. Again, make sure your green for your turtle legs and head is dry, so that way we don't have any colors mixing, especially since we're going to be painting right up against the edges of those. You don't want to get any green in your turtle shell. So I'm going to start with my yellow, and I'm going to paint right there in the center. And I will show you what this looks like. Hopefully you can see through the camera my pencil lines. So I'm just doing my yellow right now, and you can see, probably not too well on the camera, but you can lightly see those pencil lines underneath. so I can still see them and go back and outline it later on. And then I'm not having to paint around anything for this step. I can get a nice even gradient, which is that nice fade from one color to the next. So while this yellow is still wet, I'm going to immediately, with my yellow paintbrush, grab some of that orange and paint around the outside there. And then I'm just going to start brushing it together, just like we did our background and our turtle green legs. I'm just going to blend the two colors together so that way it is a nice even fade. See how this is blending together? I'm going to continue that all the way around the shell. Now if you get too much orange and you want more of that yellow to show through, you can easily go back and grab some more yellow and you can paint some more over top. Just depends on how much yellow or how much orange you want to show through. Alrighty, now that we have the orange and yellow of our turtle shell done, we are going to move on to painting the seaweed along the bottom. So if you painted over your seaweed to do your background, totally fine, you can still add that in. Just look at your reference sheet that's in your art kit so you can tell where the seaweed is, or you can just place your own seaweed, whatever you want to do. What I'm going to do though is show you how best to start this. So we're going to use greens and we want it to stand out against our turtle. So we don't want to use different color greens. So what I did was I made a lighter shade of green, more white than green. You can see this is a much lighter than the green we used for our turtle, which is over here. And then I also made a dark green. So this has quite a bit of black with just our regular green mixed together. It's more of like a hunter green. Kind of hard to tell with this lighting, but. So you want to have a few different shades of green, light, really dark, regular. And you just want to make sure that you strategically place that. So for example, you probably don't want to put a super light color that matches this turtle leg on this strip of seaweed, so that way it doesn't blend together. You just want to have a few different colors in there. And you can see each seaweed piece has more than one color mixed in there. Same thing like we did with our leg or the background. You just want to make sure one color is wet before you add another color on there. The best thing for this, especially if you paint it over your seaweed and you're just painting it in kind of freehanding, is to paint everything one nice coat of your light color, let it dry, and then go back and add other greens to it. Doing the lighter coat will help it stand out more because it has more white pigment, so it'll look lighter against that teal. So you can either use a pencil to draw if you, again, painted over those, or you can just freehand it with your brush. I'm using my small brush for this detail. Or if you just painted around all your seaweed, then you know where the placement is and you can just go ahead and get started painting. Alright, so let's go ahead and paint all of our seaweed, and then after that we're almost done. We'll just have the finishing touches.